So you want to get into motovlogging, but you can't seem to get your camera set up right. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can mount a GoPro or any other action camera onto your motorcycle helmet, irrespective of what the chin bar looks like. Let's get the video started. So let's start off with the things that you'll require. Firstly, obviously, a helmet. That's a Scorpion EXO 490, which one of my friends gave me and asked me to install a GoPro right here on the chin bar of his helmet. Second thing you'll require is obviously an action camera. This is a GoPro Hero 3 Plus Black Edition. Next up is a GoPro J mount. So adjustability then becomes a lot easier because of that hinge available at this point over here. You then need a curved mount preferably, but I think to some extent we can use a flat mount as well. It really wouldn't make much of a difference. Next up, Araldite Klear. And this is for 50 rupees from your local hardware store, but it works wonders. It's not necessary that you have this, but it helps keep the entire bond together. Next up is masking tape. The thinner this is, the better, because it will help you then mold the shape of your GoPro mount onto the chin bar a lot easier. M-Seal. This comes in two separate packs. You need to mix it together and then it becomes harder over time. Puppy Bane is optional, but it helps along the way. You'd probably want to have sandpaper for this step, but a nail filer is also a alternative if you don't have sandpaper around. And finally, what you need is this 3M tape. Now this is available on eBay for about 300 rupees I think when I bought it, but I'll leave a link in the description for where you can purchase this off. This is automotive tape, so it's really strong, and it'll help you secure your mount to your helmet, no questions asked. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is to clear off the front of the helmet. So just wipe it off with a cloth, nothing fancy, because we're not really sticking anything onto this just yet. And when you're done with that, just apply some of this masking tape onto the front of the helmet. So when we eventually use M-Seal on that front to kind of get that mold, there's nothing which is directly in contact with the chin bar of your helmet. So the paint or any kind of graphics which you have in front doesn't really get affected. We're finally done with putting the tape onto the front of the helmet. If you can see, I've tried to push in any kind of folds which there could be into these ridges or indents on the front of the helmet, just to make sure that there's really no space between the mold and the front of the helmet, so that it fits snug in place when we eventually put some 3M tape on the front of that helmet. What we're going to do next is roughen up the back of this GoPro mount, so that any kind of M-Seal or anything of that sort which we put on the back of this has some surface to grip onto. So I'm going to be using this nail filer, but it's better if you use like sandpaper or something like that. It makes the job a lot easier and a lot quicker as well. So I finally was able to roughen up the back of this GoPro mount. If you can see through the reflection, there's a lot of marks at the back of that now, which will help us connect some M-Seal to that pretty easily, and it should stay connected for a while. What I'd also recommend that you do is just wipe off the back of that. Don't wash it, because I don't know how that will interfere with the M-Seal, but just wipe that off and make sure that there's no dust particles on that, because that could weaken the connection between your M-Seal and the GoPro mount. Okay, the next step is very important because it will decide how your GoPro eventually gets placed onto your helmet. You want to make sure that you just line these two up correctly. So I've inserted the J mount into that curved mount which we were looking at earlier, and I'm going to try and just eyeball this so that we can make sure that it's situated in the right place, straight, and our next step then would be to apply the M-Seal. You might want to outline the area which you have finally decided to place your GoPro mount on, so that later on when you're applying it with the M-Seal, it becomes easier for you to to just like place it there and know that you've done it correctly this time. The reason this step is important is because you want to make sure that it's bang in the center, and you've got enough of an angle to move your GoPro around with in case you're in the tuck position on your motorcycle, or if you're upright, then the range of motion, so to speak, on the GoPro camera and the mount is available. So on different types of motorcycles, you still have the perfect view and be able to give your viewers the experience of actually riding the motorcycle versus looking at the dashboard or looking up in the sky, depending on how you have managed to mess things up. We've all been there. So I'm gonna just try and line these two up and just outline it so that I know when I place my GoPro mount on the front of my helmet, it's in the right place. Okay, now that we've got our helmet all marked up and ready to go, what we're going to do is focus more on the actual mount, the GoPro mount. So we're going to be using M-Seal and the GoPro mount. You don't want to be putting a lot of it on the GoPro mount. Of course, you can take it off when it's on there, but it becomes a bit of a problem. But make sure that you put as little as possible onto the back of the mount so it doesn't become a very messy job and you don't have to clean up a lot afterwards. But I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so now that we've got our GoPro mount and M-Seal put together, I've also created two separate blobs of M-Seal as well, just in case there's additional gaps to the side of the mount when it's put onto the front of the helmet, which need to be filled up as well, because you don't want to have a mount which is movable. It defeats the purpose. What we're going to do now is line up the front of the helmet and this GoPro mount together, and just fill in any additional gaps at the side with the blobs of M-Seal that I've got. We're then going to let that sit for a while so that it hardens, and we'll continue the video once it's hardened and ready to go. Okay, so we're done placing the mount now on the front of the helmet, on the chin bar. Have a look, there's really no gaps at the side of the helmet, if you can see over here, and that's the way you want to do it. So if you can push it in with your finger, or if you've got a pencil or something of that sort which you can use, that makes the mount a little more secure. So like you can see, irrespective if there's any kind of vents or indents on the front of your helmet, this method would still help you find that exact shape. So your next step, which is then sticking 3M tape on the back of that, becomes a lot easier. Alright, now that the M-Seal has pretty much dried up and formed a mold with the shape of the chin bar on this helmet, we can now take it off the helmet and move on to the next step. Okay, so here we have it. This is what the mount now looks like. So as you can see, there's still some tape. You just peel that off over the next few minutes, and then all you have remaining is just the shape of that mold, and seems to have already taken a pretty decent shape to the chin bar of the helmet. Alright, so we've now got most of the tape off the GoPro mount, and it's now pretty much just the M-Seal which is back here. As you can see, it's taken the shape of the front chin bar on the helmet, and it's got quite a few bits of curved and flat surfaces. Really not a lot of space left between the helmet and the mount itself. So that seems to be a mold which was done well. Now the next step is to apply some Araldite Klear on the back of this, just to make sure that the M seal stays bonded and doesn't deteriorate over time. So considering the kind of riding you'll be doing and the fact that there'll be a lot of dust, wind and whatnot hit against the chin bar of your helmet, you want to make sure that the mount and anything holding the mount to the helmet isn't really going to get damaged. And just to reinforce the connection which is already now existent between these two, we'll apply that around it, and then the final stage begins. Now just like MCL, you get two tubes with this. One is the resin and the other is the hardener. You need to mix equal amounts of this together and then add that to the existing connection you've got with your GoPro mount. So we're done adding Araldite Klear now to the back of the GoPro mount. As you can see, it's pretty much evenly applied to the entire mount, so you have that glossy kind of effect now. All it's going to do is make sure that that bond stays intact and nothing starts to break off over time. We're going to leave this to dry for a few minutes and then move on to the last step of mounting the GoPro mount to your helmet. Okay, so as you can see now, the mold is formed, has bonded and also has an Araldite Klear layer on it. This is now ready to go to the front of your helmet, and all we need to do that is use this little baby over here. This is 3M tape. Let's get cutting. So you want to start off with just basic layers like this, adding one strip at a time so that you're not using too much 3M tape. And if there is extra bits like you can see over here, then you can just like cut them off later on. That shouldn't be a problem. Let's finish off with the rest of it. That's it. So we've got the entire 3M tape covering the back of this GoPro mount, and all that remains now is to stick it to the front of the helmet. One very important thing to keep in mind before you actually stick this to the front of your helmet is to line this up firstly and just make sure that everything's in place before you actually start to peel off the back of this 3M tape. Because once you've got it on the helmet, it's going to be pretty hard for you to take it off the helmet itself. And if you do manage to do that well, the credibility of this tape is kind of lost when you are able to take it off. So I wouldn't recommend putting it back onto the helmet. So as you can see now, this seems to be placed pretty well, pretty close to the front of the helmet. It doesn't seem like there's any gaps even with the 3M tape involved now. So I think we're good to go with this and ready to take the tape off the back of the GoPro mount and stick it permanently. Alright, that pretty much does it. Have a look. There's really no space between the helmet and that mount over there. Look at it from all angles you want to. Really isn't a lot of space, even if there is any, and seems to be held in pretty well. Okay, and you're pretty much done. Purely out of experience though, what I would recommend is that you leave this to kind of bond over the next 12 hours or so. What I would do at this stage is I would normally use this masking tape and just kind of tighten the front end up so that there's a lot of pressure being applied between the chin bar and the mount, and it stays secured for the next 12 hours. So that bond which is eventually created is rock solid, and you don't have to worry about your action camera falling off. Okay, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna now tape up the front end of this helmet right here at the chin bar on the mount and keep it to dry for the next 12 hours or so. Wake up in the morning and I should have a ready to go GoPro chin bar mount. Okay, so that's pretty much the same technique I've used to mount the GoPro onto my AJC R5 11 Pro helmet as well. It's a pretty complicated chin bar, but we managed to do that with the same method even on this helmet as well. It should work for any other surface and any other helmet as well. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. If you did not, well, at least share your feedback in the comment section. As always, at least wear your helmets while riding your motorcycles and ride safe. It's a freaking jungle out there. Goodbye.